Their precise response was, how much do we need to pay you for you to come over here? We don't want to do the back and forth. We don't want to negotiate. Just tell us a figure and we'll meet it. And I didn't even go with them.
Somebody who came from Valet joined us at 22 years old, and in around 2 months, just over 2 months, broke in with one of the top medical device companies in the world at well over 6 figures. How old are you?
I'm 23.
How old were you when you joined the program?
22.
So you literally joined the program, had a birthday, got in, and now went from making 40K in Valet to over 6 figures and had companies coming to you being like, how much?
That's what happened.
Your advice to one person, whether they had sales experience, whether they don't have sales experience, whether they have a clinical background, or they just want to break into medical device sales no matter what age, what's your advice to that person? Welcome back to New to Medical Device Sales. I am your host, Jacob McLaughlin, and today I'm coming to you all, my friends, with one of the fun stories that we get to share each and every week. And so today we're going to learn more about Kyle Richardson and learn about his story of going from Valet to breaking into medical device sales with a top medical device company. So Kyle, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's fun to have you do the full circle moment of getting on a call, listening to the podcast, and now you're going to be on it, man.
Yeah, it's pretty surreal. Podcasts like this are what got me to join the program. It gave me faith in you and your program. And so now I'm here doing the podcast, and it's still a pretty surreal moment. Can't believe I'm, hired and moving across the country. So
yeah, well, and also you're not just moving to anywhere. You're currently here in Phoenix, right?
Yes.
Where are you moving?
I'm moving to San Diego, one of the best cities to live in the United States.
Yeah, which doesn't stink as a young person in their 20s who wants to just get out and explore the world more.
Right.
So he's going to be going to a beautiful area with a great company. But let's get to know a little bit more about who is Kyle. So give us a little summary of like us going into where you went to school at, like what did you go to school for, and then kind of going from there.
Absolutely. So again, Kyle Richardson. I'm an Arizona native, grew up in Fountain Hills, Arizona. So that's where all my sentimental memories are.
I love it.
I ended up going to Arizona State University. Didn't know what I wanted to do like most 18-year-olds. So I ended up dipping my toes into biomedical engineering. That's the degree I graduated with. And whenever I say that, people kind of laugh because they're like, you didn't know what you wanted to do, so you went with biomedical engineering. And the way I always describe it is I wasn't really looking for what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I just wanted to surround myself with really competent, competitive individuals who are going to push me to grow.
Yep.
However, as I approached senior year, I figured out that engineering really wasn't my thing. I found out I wanted to have that social component involved within my career and future. And so just as an exploratory experiment, I actually ended up launching a small little vending machine business. And it was a great time. I had an awesome time doing it. It was very successful. But something I really found out was I loved business and sales.
Yep.
I loved that autonomous element to it. I loved finding leads. I loved getting past gatekeepers. And I love that strategic element of studying, asking questions to make a strategic sales pitch. And so I ended up going to one of my mentors at the time and just saying, hey, I really love this. And something she had mentioned was, if you love that, you should really look into sales. And at that point, I really had an epiphany because I wasn't in sales. I was in the opposite of sales. Biomedical engineering. And so, I was just looking around. Fortunately, right after that conversation, you came across my algorithm as a matter of fate, or maybe just, the excellent YouTube algorithm. So and just listening to you speak, I heard about this magical place called medical device sales. You basically got to go into the operating room, consult physicians, legit physicians,
Yep.
about how to use medical equipment. And if you did it well enough, you were able to sell it to them and save lives in the process while making a bunch of money. And so when I found that, I was like, dude, this is perfect. This is what my whole life has prepared me for. And so that's when I anteed up, joined your program. Right after I graduated, I celebrated my degree, and then the first thing on my calendar was call Jacob. So that's kind of where I am. And now I am, hired. I'm a successful graduate, and I'm super pumped about it.
Yeah, man, I'm really excited for you. Now, I want to just backtrack just a little bit because it's going to be helpful for all of the people in college and going in this aspect. We work with a lot of young individuals, but the one thing we're very blessed is, just like yourself, very driven individuals. Like, for example, let me just make this really clear. I could not have graduated college with a biomedical engineer degree. So you're very extremely smart, but also extremely business-minded, but driven, wanting to get the most out of life. Now, one of the things I want to just touch base is, going into, hey, you're doing engineering, and then how did you even stumble upon the vending machine business?
Yeah. So again, I was just really not satisfied with that engineering work. And so, I didn't have a certain direction I wanted to go. I just knew, I had to pivot away from engineering. And so my calling was essentially this program called Founders Lab. And so I was part of the honors college down there. They had a thesis program that all undergraduates have to do. And one of the programs they have is Founders Lab. Most students just incorporate their thesis into their major.
Yep.
But again, I knew I didn't want to pursue that avenue. So I ended up joining Founders Lab. It supports students in building businesses from the ground up. And I just said, hey, this is business. I know I'm not built for engineering, so let me just try something completely new. I had no expectations from the process. I just knew I wanted to do a good job. And that's kind of what led me to it.
I love it. And then what about that made you like get the bug, right? I know mine, but like for you, like you could have just gone back to engineering, right? Tried it and be like, oh, what about the sales aspect or the business aspect made you be like, I think I like this more than doing engineering?
Absolutely. So the way I always describe engineering is it's the perfectionist's dream. Like particularly biomedical engineering, when you're creating a drug and when you're creating a device, the amount of testing you need to do to make sure that that device and drug works before you can even put your hands on wires or anything it's a lot. It probably takes around 3 years. Well, yeah, 3 years to actually develop something like that. And so something I really appreciated about the business side was that I was given 6 months. I had no formal education. I just had drive and the will to do it. And I was able to make something out of it within the 6 months.
Yep.
I love that move fast, break things element to it. And I'll also add like the dopamine rush from getting that last and final yes when you make a good sales pitch is absolutely unmatched.
Yeah.
So that's where the bug came from.
Yeah. And I asked that because we get a lot of people coming from the engineering world. One of the people we're going to fly out and go podcast as well. He came from engineering and broke in with Medtronic, right? It's interesting because I have family members who are engineers, and now like I talk to them in their later years in life, and a lot of them were like, hey, I wish I would have actually done entrepreneurship and tried something else.
Right.
And so I put that out there just to anybody thinking about it, because again, there is nothing else like sales, especially if you can sell a product that's going to help somebody. But the rush of like, hey, I'm getting rejected. I get told no, but then you finally get that yes, right? And that's the one thing that people need to understand about salespeople is like, we're all very competitive individuals and we're chasing the yes. And it's like, once you get that yes, it's not just the yes. It's like you think about all the time, all the effort, all the no's until you got that yes, right? And so I just want to share that to hopefully help somebody. But now, okay, so you came out of school, you're like, hey, there's some weird guy talking on the internet. Maybe I'll just get on a call with him. The one thing I just want to ask, because again, a lot of people, we even just saw today, they're like, he's AI generated. And so it's hilarious, right? But the reason I just ask is like, for you, right? What made you want to get on a call with our team and us instead of just being like, hey, I'm just going to go on LinkedIn or I'm just going to go keep trying on my own?
It was definitely your podcasts, hearing you talk as passionately as you did about the process. And then I also just knew this was going to be extremely difficult. And, I had watched enough business and self-help gurus in the past where, it's good to build a mentor and it's good to put yourself in a space of top performers, right? I live and die by the phrase, you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time around.
Yep.
And so when I heard about your program where I was able to spend time with people trying to accomplish the same goal, which I think is one of the most valuable parts of your program.
Yeah.
And then I had 3 of, well, in my opinion, some of the highest performing reps in the planet, advising me, telling me what to do. It's, for me, it was no question.
Yeah.
And I just knew doing it by myself. I mean, why,
Yeah.
So I have that chip on my shoulder, right? I did it by myself, whatever.
Yeah. Well, and I just want to talk to that because just so you guys know, I always say the hardest people to ever actually talk to are the people under the age of 30 who are wanting to get their start, because what you just said is I've literally had people tell me, Jacob, I'd rather go try on my own for 3 years and break in on my own at $55,000 than come and join your program and in about 2 months breaking at over 6 figures. Right. And I just say that to people. Again, you guys do whatever you would like, but what I just wanted to say is I said, hey, I just need you to understand that's ego, because you in 3 years are going to be way more than 55,000 because you're already double that, right? And more. But then like for you, you just jumped right ahead. And I think the bigger thing that we always talk about, take our program out of it, it's just people who invest in themselves and want to get better always get better. You coming in and being coachable, like look what you were able to accomplish in just such a short amount of time. And let's talk about this. Did you just get one offer?
No, I got two.
Yeah, and both of those offers were going to be over six figures, right? And we started doing negotiations for the second one.
Yes.
And to that aspect of it is, do you feel like you would have been prepared for two offers if you didn't do the program? And even if you didn't do the program and you got those two offers, would you have made a decision that you did?
Yeah, that's a great point. First of all, I would not have gotten two offers if I was not in this course. And the pressure came, they were two extremely different companies. There was a clear choice. One was a much larger company, and my foundation, I ended up going with that company. My foundation there would have been much better. But when I informed the other company that, I wouldn't be going with them, they called me back and they increased their initial offer by around $30,000. And my mom was actually there for that call. Her jaw was dropped. It was pretty hilarious, and I was stressing out. And I actually ended up having to call you, and you had to talk some sense into me because, money's money to me. Any company, I was a little naive in that sense, and so the pressure definitely came when they were trying to sell me, and it was honestly a nice change because I'd been spending the last so-and-so amount of time trying to sell myself. And so it was kind of very refreshing.
Well, let's talk about this real quick. And it's not that it's money's money is you were working Valet, man. You were hustling, doing all the aspects, but how much money were you making per year?
I was making $40,000.
And that offer was over 3 times the what you're currently making.
Yes, it
and
was.
so that's what I want people to understand is it's not like it was just like, hey, it's another 20 grand or 10 grand. It's like, this is literally 3 times, 300% of what you're currently making, which is the most amount of money you're making in your life as this moment.
Yes.
Plus, like, your mom's probably on jaws on the floor because for most people, we get you guys hired, and a lot of the number one thing we get told by our young professionals are like, I'm making more money than my parents now, right? And so it's kind of like a switch of mentality because everyone tells you got to go make 50K and not make what you want to and hustle all the time, right? But why I want to share that is because the conversation me and Kyle had was a very mature conversation of, yeah, could he have gone to the other place and right away instantly made more money? For sure. But what was the kind of the perspective I maybe gave you to maybe have you just think a little bit different instead of just going for the money?
You said a couple of things. I think the biggest thing was, one, you were saying the division, and then you were saying the reputation of the company. Yeah. And one thing that you just made me realize was look into the future. What's going to give you more lateral mobility moving forward, coming from a large company and I got into CRM, which is cardiac rhythm management. That is a very technical and prestigious, at least from what I understand.
It's a very good division that does very well financially. If you guys just look it up. All right.
So that was my offer. And so one of the things you just said is, hey, you don't have to stay here forever. This is something they'll never be able to take off of your resume. And when you're moving forward, if you want another job, all you have to say is this. Yep. And it speaks volumes. Yep. Versus my other offer was from a company that nobody's heard of. And so that was kind of the pitch. And that was what I was dealing with, right? More money or a reputable company that's really going to do me wonders into the future.
100%. And just so you guys know, so you can hear my heart, is like, that's why we do consulting and we're helping you through this process, is because we're here to help you guys have success in your career, right? Not just break you in. And again, just hear my heart. Stats wise, we would have been better off to have you go take the other offer financially because you would have made more money. And then we can say, oh my gosh, he tripled his salary and all of the aspects of it. But why I had that conversation, I just want people to understand this, is because my biggest thing is having you guys have success right away and in your future. And a couple of things that people miss when we're doing this and we're coaching and it's why we have continuously top performer after top performer and people who can go from being an associate to full line rep in under a year, and people who are making no money when they first joined us making 40K to 2-3 years later, they're making $200,000-$300,000. And again, people will say it's fake, but it's not. And we continue to show it day in and day out. But why I had that conversation with Kyle is because of this, is because I thought about the future, AKA what he just said. The division he just got into is one of the most prestigious in medical device sales with cardiac. You can just imagine, if we're just talking about money as just a transfer of value, if your heart stops working, you're not alive, there's probably a lot of value in that device, right? Number one. Number two, the amount of human beings and smart human beings and top professionals you're going to work into that space, networking wise, is going to be absolutely massive. Also, going in with a top company, what many people don't think about, especially young people, because they just don't understand it, is one of the reasons I got sought after by medtech startups and by other companies that were smaller was because I had the big name on my resume, and I had to inform him. I said, hey, did you understand that if you have that big name, literally companies will try to poach you just so they can go to their investors, or they can go show that they were able to get a top dog from a top company to come to it, which makes you more sellable in those future opportunities for yourself. And then lastly, going into all of it, I said, hey, let's play worst case scenario, because that's what you all always do. So let's play it worst case scenario. If you went to this company and 12 months from now, you got fired, which one's easier to sell?
Boston Scientific.
Yeah, the bigger company at the bigger division with where you're at, right? And in a division where we talked about, like I have buddies who left that division, or they left that specific division to stay in the cardiac realm, but now they're not working 40 hours and they still make very good money because there's so many different companies that maybe you're not in the OR doing all of the aspects of actually replacing things. Maybe you're just doing a monitoring device where you're just going into the actual offices, and that still pays very well. And so it's just a lot of things that, again, just us having that insight, doing it long enough, and wanting our people to have success, we focus on that. And let's just make this clear. You're still making six figures. So it's not like it sucks and like you just took this massive pay cut, right? But what I wanted him to really understand when we talked about this is what's going to set Kyle up for the future. And one thing I will always just sit here and say is we tell our team, we want you guys to go to companies that you guys can be forever with, right? But the one thing we're also not naive to is we're in sales, right? And people can marry a company, but that company can have a tough time and let people go right away. So it's where are you going to go, and what are you learning, and what skills are you adding, and what tools are you adding to your tool set that's only going to help you as the individual, not only help that organization, but help you in the future as well, right? And so that's what I wanted people to really just hear from that is so many people think, even when it's coming to our program or whatever it is, it's so short term, right? We'll have people who say, Jacob, I'm willing to just take a job for $55K and grind for 2 years. And I'm like, but what if you took 8 weeks longer and then came in at double that and then worked less hours? And now you're in a better spot. But most people just don't think that short term into the long term aspect of it. So now let's talk about it. What was it like going from Valet, right? And then now you're in one of the most competitive divisions in all of medical device sales. What was it like when you were trying to network with these people, get in the interview processes, some of the challenges that you were facing when they're like, well, what are you currently doing?
Yes. So one of the biggest challenges is, again, I'm coming from engineering, right? Perfectionist dream. I'm used to doing things and them working. And the biggest thing to get over yourself within this program is that most calls aren't going to lead you anywhere. And so that was one of my biggest challenges just within the first 2 weeks. After that, I kind of just went into this mental space of I'm not even thinking about time. Like I'm just getting on calls, I'm doing whatever it takes. And the job I ended up getting, the first person I ended up talking to, it was funny because that conversation ended up being what you mentioned in in your modules. It's that you just won if you can talk about nothing but medical device sales. And my second call with one of my champions was about jujitsu. We talked about jujitsu for an hour and a half, and he said, okay, I'm going to give you, the contact information of my clinical manager and send me over your resume right now.
Yeah. Well, and I want you guys to know is like, again, coming from a background, everyone says, hey, you don't have sales experience. It's impossible. Exhibit 3,000, blah, blah, blah. It's like we just show it proof every single time you don't. It's do you actually have attributes that are going to come into the actual job? And for you right now, I can just sit here and tell you, you guys talked about jiu-jitsu. You want to know what there's a lot of carryover in? Sales with jiu-jitsu of just like, hey, like being able to think under pressure and being able to actually go into the aspect of it's a disciplined sport, right? And also you can get hurt, right? Like it's like you're not worried about that. And so the reason I'm just saying that is what most people miss on these podcasts is you think you have to have 100% transferable skills because of the past job you did. But we still get people who have sales experience who still struggle. And I just say this all the time. normally our salespeople are normally our harder people to get hired because they have bad habits. They all rely on their sales background. And they're like, well, I just got told if I work at these companies and get sales experience, I'll have a job. And then we have to be like, well, that's obviously not true. Otherwise, all of those employees at those jobs would have a job, right? And so there's a lot of like unbreaking of like the beliefs and breaking of the beliefs that they already had compared to with you. You're just like, let me run through the wall. We just have to maybe change your perspective on a couple things. And so you were able to be very coachable. You were very hardworking. You did everything. One of the most common things I had to say to you was stop overthinking, because you are a person of being an engineer is, hey, I'm going to be very processed and I'm going to do this and I have to do this. And then it's like, instead of just thinking a little bit more on the fly, because you are somebody who's very prepared, hence why you are very successful and you're going to be extremely successful. But one of the things I just want people to hear is, we talk about all the time is, how do we take someone who was making 40,000 in Valet to go getting a job at over 6 figures with one of the top medical device companies, right? And we've done this with so many young people under the age of 26, 25. We do it time and time and time again, but people truly can't understand it. And so the thing that I want people to hear, and I want you to talk a little bit about, is we're not so much focused all the time on like all the technical stuffs, which we are very technical and we know what to do, when to do it, and all the aspect, but it's more of getting you to believe that Kyle can show up as a candidate for $100, $120, $130,000. And they're like, yeah, no problem. Like, I don't care that this kid is just turned 23. We're willing to fly him out. We're willing to take a shot on him, and we're willing to pay him 6 figures and have him move out across the country to come work with us, right? What do you feel throughout your process, right, was the hardest part of your 23? Why would we take you over the person who's got clinical experience and is older than you?
Yes. So that's one of the first things you guys cover within the course is mindset. I know you hit on that. And the first thing that you guys told me was, just trust the process. We've done this 1,000 times. You haven't done it, but we have. So just, have faith in what you guys are telling us to do.
Yeah.
And, I really leaned on that heavily. And I did trust the process because I saw podcasts like this with 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds breaking in. And every day you go into office hours and you see people trying to do the same thing. And half the times we're doing a round of applause for, 1 or 2 people that got hired that week. And so any type of idea that you're not going to be able to do it despite your inexperience or despite your age gets thrown out the window very quick, as long as you are going into those modules, or not modules, into the meetings, office hours, because you're just around people who are doing it every day.
Yep.
And so that was never really a struggle for me. Like, I knew I was gonna break in given enough time.
I love it. And I just say that because why I wanted you guys to hear that is because when you don't struggle with it, guess what happens? Your process goes way faster and you get hired and you get multiple offers and you do it quicker, compared to many of the people we work with is we're still beating out the belief of you're not good enough or whatever their mom and dad or what all the other stuff. And like, just so we're just very clear is like, many people will be like, how do you do it? That's the most common. I have reps do it, but it's like, they don't understand psychology. They don't understand, like, I grew up in a divorced home. I grew up with family members in the mental hospital. I grew up in all these trials and things that actually realized maybe some of it drove me to be so successful, but then once you get to a certain level, it actually hinders you and holds you back. And so that's what people will actually never understand of like how we're able to have success so fast is if it's like, just trust the process, don't question it, just do it, send it, watch how fast it happens. But you saw the same people in there that we're saying the same thing to them every single week, because sometimes it just takes breaking down to get them. And maybe it's week 2, maybe it's week 6, maybe it's week 7 where they're finally like, it finally makes sense.
Yeah.
And
I'll say, like the human factor, one of the best things about this course, the way I always describe it to people is that if you took 100 robots and you made them as ugly as possible and as awkward as possible, and then you program them with nothing but the modules and the information in this course, they would all get hired in less time and at more money than myself and most of the people in the course. And so it's nice having that human or knowing that the only error is the human element.
Yeah.
Right. It's whether that's mindset or you're just not putting in enough work. And that was really the 2 things that I had to look at every time I was struggling in this course.
Yeah.
Is my mindset screwed up, or am I not putting in enough work? And it's harsh, but it's a nice equation, right? If it's a math equation, there's two variables that aren't right. As compared to, right, you asked me, why didn't I do this by myself? As compared, like, if I wasn't in this course, I could be kind of hard on myself, or I could start putting that blame towards other people or into outside variables.
100%. I want this to be very clear when you say, hey, it could be a little harsh. A couple things. Number one is what's more harsh is you lying to yourself and taking 6 months and taking away from the future of you that could have been hired in only a couple months and living your dream life. Right. And so I say that to everybody hearing that is because it is a lot of variables that we work with. But like you just said, a lot of people, they're just lazy. They're not doing enough. People watching this, well, Jacob, I reached out and then I hear the blames of everybody else. And I have to be like, and you're the least important human being of a random person for the 18th time this week. They got reached out on LinkedIn that then didn't even come prepared. And the reps don't want to talk to them or managers don't want to talk to them, but they haven't done any work to show why they should even have a shot at it. Right. Or it's, I have to keep saying, Kyle, stop overthinking. Kyle, just send it. Kyle, just do whatever it is because we just need to guide you through that aspect of it. And this is going back to what you said, and it's why I love it, is like, it's your guys' first time. It's not ours. Why I can be so confident, I've been in your shoes. I felt the exact same way. I didn't sleep for 24 hours and just like, I can't stop thinking. And then I'm like, well, should I call the regional manager and apologize? Or should I, like, I'll never forget with one of them, I was like, should I get a gift card and send it to the manager and just tell them how much I appreciate their interview? And I was like, no, I probably shouldn't do that because that would be looking like I'm trying to bribe them. And then I went through all of that, like, because you care so much, right? But then for us, when we have just done it with so many people, we're like, stop caring so much. Or like, hey, do it this way. Because sometimes it's just like coaches. We put you, right? The bigger thing for you is I actually had to tell you to stop putting so much pressure on yourself because you are somebody who is so driven, jiu-jitsu, engineer, perfection, do it. It's like, hey, let's breathe a little bit. It's all going to be okay. Literally, when you sent me and you said you had to call me, you're like, I got all these offers. I got offers. I'm also in interview processes. They're trying to do it. And I call him like, first thing I say to him, I was like, I just need you to breathe.
Yep.
I need you to just breathe for 1 second. It's all going to be okay. And you're not even acknowledging you just got a 6-figure offer with a top company. You're more stressed about what do you say here? And so I think that's the part that people miss is because it's hard doing it the first time, though people are trying to figure it out compared to here. I don't want it to be hard. I just want you to put the hard work in and then we're going to take care of everything else. And that's what I just want everybody to know, whether you guys ever work with us or don't. Like just understand, like the number one reason you don't make 6 figures is because of you. And that is going to be the hardest thing for people to hear. And I had to hear that when I was younger. But the reason, if you're coming into medical device sales, right? If you don't make 6 figures, it's because of you. Because you either haven't shown up the way you're supposed to, you haven't done the amount of work, you haven't prepped enough, you haven't been able to show why they should even consider you, or you're blaming other people. It's never your fault. You play the victim. Like there's all the other stuff that we have to always come into. But what I want people to understand and why we do it time and time again, and why right after this, I'm going to be flying out to Connecticut to go with one of our guys who at 24 as an engineer got hired at over 150K with Medtronic as well. And we're going to go do that podcast is because we make sure to create human beings, which just so we're clear, he was already an amazing human being and an amazing candidate, but we make sure to create candidates that a company sees and they're like, he's only that much. She's only that much. That's a steal. We need to get them because if we don't, you got another offer. And then when you go tell the other company you got another offer, they raise it by $30K, not $3,000, $5,000, $30,000. They're like, hey, we'll match this, but we'll actually go up.
Their precise response was, how much do we need to pay you for you to come over here? We don't want to do the back and forth. We don't want to negotiate. Just tell us a figure and we'll meet it. And I didn't even go with them.
Yep. And so I need you guys all to hear that is because this is what we continue to say. Many of you are trying to figure it out and saying, I hope. And again, when I just say this, I know you won't because you don't know the difference between interviews 1, 3, 5, and 7. And you don't know that Stryker does a Gallup, why J&J does a virtual assessment, why Medtronic's doing a panel. Like you guys don't know all of that, right? And so the reason I'm just saying that is you guys tried to figure it out compared to what we're doing is we're having the companies sell to our people, not you guys sell to them the whole time. And that's the difference. And that's the turn. And that's we're not needy. It's why we come in and we speak so confidently. I just shared a video to our team about confidence because it's like, we do this every day. We change lives every day. It's what we do. And people are going to say whatever they want to say. but they're not here in the seat. They're not where you're at. They're not getting flown out, and they're not moving across the country to be a top performing rep at a top company, right? And that's the one thing I just want people to know is like when you focus on yourself and get yourself around people like this, you have companies saying, what's your number? Let's go. And let's just make this clear one more time. How much money were you making in Valet?
$40,000.
And now how much money are you going to make?
$108,000.
Yeah. And
with bonuses.
And you actually get relocation packages that. So just so we're clear, it's actually more than that.
Yes.
Right? Because they just a sign-on bonus and all the aspects. So, but the reason I'm just saying that is literally, and you turned down a job for how much?
120,000.
And then with the bonuses and everything with packages, it was closer to 130.
Yes.
And so the reason I'm just saying that is, how old are you?
I'm 23.
How old were you when you joined the program?
22.
So you literally joined the program, had a birthday, got in, and now went from making 40K in Valet to over 6 figures and had companies coming to you being like, how much?
That's what happened.
And now look at where you're at. And tell us about what's been some of the biggest lessons, whether it's in the program or just in your life or going through this, of going from maybe, hey, I just want to break into, no, I'm worth 6 figures. Hey, I'm actually in the interview process for 6 figures. I'm going through that. What's maybe some lessons you took away?
So you hit on it just now. It's the abundance mindset. So, Jacob doesn't let anybody into this course who's not capable of breaking in. And so when the advice to myself is you need to calm down, you're in a good place because you're doing all the right things. You have the drive, you have the will. And so just getting myself to calm down and forget about the time and understanding if I keep doing this to the best of my ability, I'm going to get in at some point, and that I am a snag and a catch. That gave me a lot of confidence going into interviews. Past that, just, one of my favorite things from Alex Hormozi is figure out what you want, ignore the opinions of others, and then do as much volume to the point where it's unreasonable that you'd fail. And so that and the abundance mindset really just pair well together, and it does get you to relax and just say, hey, I am a snag, I am a catch. I have that drive, I have that work ethic, and I'm going to get placed in the right place eventually.
100%. And I just want to point this out real quick, right? Because we listen to similar. I'm always talking about Alex in our program, and because there's a lot of good things he puts out there. And the reason I just want this to be said is you're with that mindset, and we say, hey, you are enough. Kyle, you are going to go somewhere. We are, and we know you're going to get in that 6 figures. We're going to show you what to do, and you're doing the work, which only the work produces more confidence, right? Most people who aren't confident, it's because you lie to yourself, say you're going to wake up, don't do it, say you're going to work out, don't, say you're not going to drink beer, you do, right? Like all the aspects of it. But the reason I'm just saying that, so you're being confident, you're doing the work, you're having mentorship, you're having saying, hey, we've done this with other people. And then every single week, you're actually getting to see people have the success. So you're close. That's going to happen for you. But then on top of it, what I want you guys to hear is you're in the mindset of, I know it's going to happen. I know I'm enough, and I know I'm going to make it, compared to all of you are saying, I wish I was enough. I hope I can make it. I hope I do enough for this. Right there's the difference between 6 figures and not 6 figures. That's what I want everyone to hear, because everyone comes at me for, we get people hired at over 6 figures. That's why. Because our people, it doesn't matter that he was 22 or 23. We know who you are as a human being and what you're going to be able to produce for a company. Screw the age. That's what many of you guys miss is I hear all the time, well, I'm only 25. And I'm like, and that's why you'll never make money.
Yeah. Well, and just spinning, another big lesson is spinning your position into a strength. I think a lot of people, when you aren't coming from an abundance mindset, you look at your position and you view all of your credentials as a negative. But I can say, I'm young, I'm going to grow in this company, I'm moldable, right? One of the first things that you teach in this course is you say, hey, I'm not coming from sales, which everybody would think, oh, that's such a downfall. No, you're moldable. You don't have bad habits. You don't have an ego. Like, you're just going to go onto the team and learn from all of the reps. Like, companies love to hear that. And then, and again, going to the point where I'm young, right? People are going to say, you're naive, you're inexperienced, you're not going to have that discipline and bring that drive that you would see from someone who's maybe gone through it and has a little bit more wisdom and has a little bit more life behind them. No, man, like, I'm young and I'm going to kill it. Like, and if you can demonstrate that you're going to kill it, your youth is an advantage. You're going to grow inside that company and keep giving that residual value. So
come on.
again, like it really is a mindset. That was one of the biggest things. You don't surround yourself with people as optimistic as Jacob in everyday life. And so, and then it's contagious. Like you're with people in the office hours, all the coaches, they're the same way. And so that mindset comes.
And you want to know why we are? Because we see it every single day.
Right.
We do the impossible every single day. I get told on the internet all the time why it's impossible, and then we do it every single day. Right. And I'll just say this, it all goes from God. Literally what everyone's told me I can't do, I've only accomplished. And that's the belief I try to bring all to you, because I know it's possible if you have the right people feeding into your life. If you have the right people saying it is possible, the right people saying you can do it. Because when they say you don't have the sales experience, what about the person who has maybe a little bit more grit, or a little more drive, or a little more experience? What about what we just talked about, where you're talking to a person where you do jujitsu? That's harder than most people that could ever do anything, right? Have you been choked out before, regional manager? Probably not, right? And so there's so many aspects of bringing into your life and why it's a strength. And what you just said, and I hope people saw that, is look at the confidence when you said that. The confidence of you're enough. And that's one thing I just want everybody to know is when you are all just saying, I hope I'm enough, it's why you're not where you're at. But when you keep promises to yourself, when you do the work, you invested in yourself and you said, I am not investing in this to let it go down to nothing. You came in, you put in the work, you put in the confidence, you were extremely coachable. That's why you got multiple offers at over 6 figures at only 23 years old. And it's why you've just changed your life. And I just want to tell you, man, how proud I am of you and how much fun and how much of a pleasure it is. And honestly, it's more sad that you're in and out so quickly. But I'll just sit here and tell you, I'm very proud of you. And I just want you to know, without a doubt, I hope you all see you're so extremely smart and so extremely intelligent. And you're starting your career at over 6 figures. And this is the least amount of money you're ever going to make. And you're so going to crush it in every other way. And I just want you all to know you already have more sales experience and more business experience because you ran a vending machine than most sales reps. And they'll come in and you're going to be the young, driven human being that's going to talk trash because I got it. They would call, hey, how's the young kid with no experience doing it? And it's because they're threatened. And I'm just sitting here telling you so I can show it to the whole world. You're going to come in here and you're going to make waves and you're going to make ripples. And it's going to be tough because you're in a tough division. But the person that Kyle is going to be in a year from now is a totally different man, a different human being, a different value. And you're going to be worth so much more, and you're going to bring a company so much more. And I just want you to hear it from me because I'm so pumped for you, my man.
I'm pumped too, and I appreciate all those compliments. And I also wanted to talk about, I'm kind of upset to leave the program too. It is literally a master class on how to sell yourself. And I think, I've been thinking a little bit about, it's going to be more important in the future for me to sell myself than it is to sell any type of product.
Yeah.
And so, I had a blast doing it. I had a blast. Even the failures towards the end of the process, it was like, yep, that's just how it goes, build my grit. And so, obviously I'm stoked to have a job now, but, I'll miss the office hours and all the coaching calls. It was a blast.
Yeah. Well, the good news is he still has access. He's still going to be able to join in it. And he'll still be able to see Jacob being like, come on for the 18th time. But I just want you to know, I'm so proud of you. As we end it, what is your advice to one person, whether they had sales experience, whether they don't have sales experience, whether they have a clinical background, or they just want to break into medical device sales no matter what age? What's your advice to that person?
Yeah, if you're seriously considering medical device sales as an industry and you are, if you're just embarking on that process or you're struggling in the midst of this process, you need to, quit wondering and sign up for this course because even if you do have all the resources and skills necessary to break into this industry by yourself, you're never going to get mentors like that are provided within this course, and you're never going to meet, top performers like the people who are in this course as well. And so,
I appreciate that. Now, thank you for doing that. But what other piece of advice that's actionable that someone's listening on a podcast could be like, maybe I'm not doing that, and you can challenge their beliefs. Maybe you can say something. What's one thing that you could say to somebody who's like, they come up to you because you just broke in, you went through the gauntlet of breaking in. Now they say, Kyle, I want to break into medical device sales. What's your one piece of advice? What after mentorship with us, what would be another piece of advice that you can give them?
Embrace the suck. One of the most important things is you need to understand that this process is going to be hard. And again, this goes back to mindset. You need to flip that. One of the things that really gravitated me towards sales was, you get to build your grit, you get to build your perseverance, you get to build, just skills that make you an excellent human being on a daily basis. And so you need to understand that this process is going to be one of the hardest in your life, or at least it has been up to this point.
Yep.
And you need to embrace that, flip it into a positive. All goes back to mindset. I would say that.
I love that, because here's the one thing. We tell you guys to get excited because it is hard, because most of you who listen and hear it's hard will quit. We actually just had a person today who was supposed to get on a call with our team and was like, it's 5 interviews. I'm not doing that. Pulled out. And it's like, awesome. Awesome. That means there's more opportunity for people who are like, it's hard. Let's do it. And that's what we teach. Get excited for the hard. Get excited, because the one thing I just want to kind of end with is, you're right about the embrace the suck, the mindset, is the one thing we teach you all, because this is so much more than just teaching you about breaking into medical device sales. Hopefully we can teach you about life and other stuff that's going to help you throughout your life. But the one thing I'll just sit here and tell you is, everyone tries to tell you, oh, life's going to be easy. It's the biggest lie. Life is literally the hardest thing ever. You're doing great. You have a friend pass away. You're doing great. You had a scenario that you didn't see coming. And what I just want you guys to understand is, when you can look at saying, hey, I know it's going to be hard, but I have the confidence in me, no matter what it is, I'm going to get through it. It changes everything. And so I just hope you guys can hear that in the mindset of what he said is why you should get excited, why we teach them to get excited, why I get excited. When I started this, I get people being like, oh, how's your little podcast doing? I'm like, it's doing great, man. It's doing great. And it's because I just had a videographer. We're flying out across the country to go do 4 podcasts in 2 days. But he's like, I've never seen somebody put out thousands of videos in the last 5 years, and I've never seen somebody work harder than you. And I just say that, take me out of it. That's what we're instilling in all of our people, because there's one thing they can't take away from it, and it's you liking the hard work, doing the suck part. And that's why you guys will make so much money. And so, Kyle, I just want to say, proud of you, man. Thank you so much for taking time, as I know you're busy, and I can't wait to go watch you. I'm going to be extremely jealous of you as you're surfing in San Diego. Yeah. But I hope you absolutely go to crush it. We're always going to be here for you, and so extremely proud of you.
I appreciate you, Jacob. Thank you.
Of course. And if you guys are really interested in breaking into medical device sales, you can click the link below and just understand we want you guys all to win. Just know it is possible. For anyone who says you can't break into medical device sales at 6 figures, just understand eagles don't fly with pigeons. If you know what to do and it's not your first time, you can. But if you're not sure, it's going to be tough, and you've listened to a lot of other people who don't know how to do it, it will be tough. So I just want to keep encouraging you guys. It's possible, living proof that it's possible. And now, because he bet on himself, he embraced the hard work. And if you guys are wondering about breaking in, or if you're doubting that it's possible, go to our website, testimonials, and you'll see hundreds of people just like Kyle sharing their testimonial. And you can check out more podcasts, because again, all we do every single day is show you proof that it's possible.